In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Morning. Sorry about the loss, but it was hard waking up this morning. So, life is not a random occurrence. It's not accidental. It's intentional, with its creation stemming from God's supernatural act. This intentional nature of life invites us to contemplate its origins, encouraging introspection and a deeper understanding of our existence. Today is Sanctity of Life Sunday. So often this issue often gets talked about in sound bites. Pro-life and pro-choice, a woman's right to choose, or protecting the unborn. Sometimes we can lose the perspective of life and just lose it and turn it into a debate. It is proper for us as Orthodox Church in America to regain the proper perspective of human life in order for us to make the proper judgments on the value of life. According to the Bible, human life begins before a person takes their first breath. This perspective, a source of comfort and guidance for many, states that a human person is already alive in the womb, providing a sense of security and reassurance. God is the creator of life, the source of life, and He determines our value. He has given us value in a very unique and special way by creating us in His own image and likeness. Although there is not 100% consensus among scientists, 97% believe it is empirical and irrefutable fact that an individual human life begins at conception. These are some of my 9th grade biology class notes. And yes, I do save my high school stuff to get through. Yeah, that went through the flood last year. So when 23 chromosomes of the father's sperm fuse with the 23 chromosomes of the mother's egg to create a single-cell embryo or zygote containing 46 chromosomes with 30,000 genes combined to determine its unique DNA code containing all the person's physical characteristics, sex, facial features, body type, the color of hair, eyes, and skin. The fertilized egg immediately travels down the fallopian tube into the uterus, where the lining prepares for implantation. At first, the cells will divide into 2 groups, 2 into 3 for a millisecond, verifying a unique life has begun. Then into 4, 4 into 8, and so forth. Just moments after conception, the zygote then divides again and again. Some cells develop into temporary placenta and are essential for implantation. Other cells develop into various parts of the body and increase by dividing rapidly into a ball of continuously changing in size. The shape is called a blastocyst and implants itself in the uterine wall about 6 days after fertilization until day 9. It is implantation that makes the baby more likely to survive. Cells continue to multiply exponentially and develop into specific body parts. During the embryonic and fetal development of the child, the term fetus is used beginning at the 8th week of development. That was science biology back in 1978 in the Detroit Public High School. It's not a coincidence that the science of biology also corresponds to the Bible's understanding of life and conception. The Bible tells us that an unborn child is a complete human person with potential at the moment of conception when the sperm fertilizes the egg. The child is not independent of their mother when the umbilical cord is cut. Without care from someone, it would die soon. The Bible says that life is in the blood, which the Old Testament frequently affirms in Genesis chapter 9, verse 3 through 6. A person has lifeblood flowing through them long before they have breath. They are not property or things to be discarded. They have the attributes of self-consciousness in the womb. Esau and Jacob, according to Genesis chapter 21, verse 22 and 25, verse 22, struggled together within their mother's womb. The Bible clarifies that a human being is regarded as a separate and distinct life from the moment of conception and deserves to be protected. The New Testament also refers to the consciousness of a baby. In Luke chapter 1, verse 41, We hear when Elizabeth, who was pregnant with John the Baptist, met with Mary the Theotokos at the visitation, the baby leapt in Elizabeth's womb because of the presence of Jesus in Mary's womb. And that's the icon that we see right here. You'll see Elizabeth and Mary, and then the womb with John the Baptist and Jesus. This biblical story in Luke is now a proven fact that babies in the womb have cognitive responses. In a peer-reviewed journal, Trends in Cognitive Science, October 12, 2023, it was determined that consciousness is present at birth and starts as early as late pregnancy. Co-author Lorena Nacy explained, findings suggest that newborns can integrate sensory and developing cognitive responses into coherent conscious experiences to understand the actions of others and plan their own responses. George Dragoy, an associate professor of psychiatry and neuroscience at Yale, confirmed this research, that the human mind is not blank at birth because neural connections are not created after accumulating sensory information and exercise. This was Nature Reviews Neuroscience 2024. The evangelist Luke was a doctor, a physician. 2,000 years ago, they understood the science of the unborn baby in the womb. The Greek word for baby, brephos, is a baby who is born prematurely, has the same signs of life and self-consciousness as a baby that underwent 9 full months of development in the womb. The word brephos, used in the New Testament for a baby and infants already born, is the same word used for a baby in the womb. So there is no precise point or moment when the unborn brephos becomes a baby, a born brephos. The value of life is the same. An intentional killing of a brephos at any point is infanticide. When early Jewish and Christian writers discussed the subject of abortion, they refer to the Bible because it indicates in numerous ways that the fruit of the womb, a fetus, an unborn child, is a human person from the moment of conception and considered a male or female, human infant, baby, or child at conception, using personal pronouns that indicate personhood and human characteristics from embryo to adult. When a God's image is imparted to them and taking its life would be murder because it deserves special attention. The Bible clearly teaches that the unborn child is a human being, a human person, and deserves to be protected. It also provides a clear precedent for speaking out against abortion and other injustices and promoting righteousness in society and before lawmakers. Proverbs chapter 24, verse 11 through 12 says, "Rescue those who are being taken away to death. Hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, 'Behold, we do not know this,' does he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he repay man according to his work?" And Proverbs chapter 31, verse 8 says, "Open your mouths for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute." Historically, the Orthodox Church's teaching opposes abortion throughout history. In very rare circumstances, less than 0.2%, where a mother might die as a result of pregnancy, both parents may have to decide whether to end a pregnancy rather than lose the lives of both mother and child. Taking a human life for any reason other than saving a life is wrong. Abortion is not an instrument of compassion for victims of rape or incest. We don't punish the unborn child with death because of the sins of the father. The mother must be given compassionate care and assistance throughout the pregnancy to help her decide whether she wants to keep or place the child for adoption. Well, what if you don't believe in God? Or you know someone that doesn't believe in God? So then you don't believe that your value is determined by God. Well, maybe you think your value is determined by what you add to society or what others believe about you. It's nice when others think we are valuable. We all like to feel valued. But I would argue that when we base our worth or other people's worth on what other humans believe to be someone's value, we begin to tread in areas that we have seen through history cause great tragedies. Several hundred years ago, when human men brought blacks here as slaves, they considered them less than human. The wrong thinking about value of another human allowed slavery to continue for years, even among many God-fearing people, because they believed the lie that others can determine a person's value apart from God. We have slave labor going on today, the Uyghurs in China that are making our clothing. Today we have child sex slaves in America being trafficked. 300,000 children are still unaccounted for in America. Today, that crossed the border illegally. They cannot be found or accounted for, and we are silent. In the last century, we have seen those who have gained power, who have no regard for God, and have sought to value some humans differently than others. This type of belief and thinking led to the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews were killed, along with 6 million others, Slavs and Gypsies, because they were valued by those who were in power. And this does not include godless regimes of communism. Stalin in the Soviet Union, over 60 million Christians. Under Mao of China, up to 70 million people. When we remove God and take away the value he has placed on all men and women by creating them in his own image and likeness, we begin down the path that will lead to great tragedies. If we do not value the unborn and make it legal to abort, then we will one day, like today, not value older people in nursing homes and care facilities and get rid of them for the sake of society. We don't say, hey, the Nazis were just making choices consistent with their beliefs. Who are we to mandate our beliefs on someone else? We see the flaw in that because their choices are affecting the life of someone else, but they arrive at this place through a devaluing of human life. In slavery, blacks were devalued by others. They were considered less than human. In Nazi Germany, Jews were devalued by the Nazis, not of the same value of the Aryan race. And in America, and much of the world, the abortionist argument hinges on the belief that a baby in the womb is not really human. Is that true? Does location of a baby determine if it's really human? Medical photography has been so advanced today, where there is specially designed equipment to document photographs clearly the inside of the human being to level of a cell, and to look at the amazing photography capturing the human being from conception to birth is truly fascinating. In just 16 weeks of conception, you can see clear pictures of a baby with fingers and facial features and a body. At 20 weeks, you can see pictures of a human child sucking his thumb. Small, yes. Human, yes. Valuable, yes. Are they able to survive on their own? No. And this is where some will argue that until a baby is viable and can survive on its own and is not dependent on its mother, then it's less than human and does not have the same value as a viable human. However, if we follow that logic, then even newborn babies outside the womb would be eligible to be killed because they are still dependent and unable to survive without a caring for them. It is hard to imagine someone thinking that it is acceptable to kill an already born baby. But there are those that think that's unacceptable. And there are states right now in the United States with that policy as law in their state constitution, including our state. Peter Singer, an ethicist who has written a number of books, suggests that no newborn should be considered a person until 30 days after birth. As unbelievable as that is, and as much as many of us would think that type of thinking is crazy, and he is just some whacked out job person, nobody would listen to him. Well, he was hired, even writing these things, as professor of bioethics at Princeton University. A baby up to 30 days after birth, he argues, does not have the same value as a fully functioning human being. He would argue that it is not yet really fully self-aware of life. What does God say about life and when he created us? Did he create us in his image and likeness 30 days after birth? Or only upon birth? Or at some other times? God creates life in the womb. King David in Psalm 139, verse 13 through 14 wrote, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." And in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5, we learn, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." God creates us in the womb. He creates us in his own image and likeness. But even though we are smaller, he values life in the womb, just like life outside the womb. The Bible is clear about the value of life in the womb throughout ancient Judaism and the entirety of the church history. It is unanimously affirms the dignity of the unborn, which is not considered an entity, parasite, uninformed a substance, glob of tissue, or incomplete subhuman life. The Bible also prohibits abortifacients, which are drugs that end pregnancy, which is now the leading way to abort pregnancy today in record numbers. So what does that mean for us today as the Orthodox Church? I believe, as we heard in today's gospel lesson, we should be more like blind Bartimaeus. He was at the roadside, blind and begging. And when he heard that Jesus was passing by, he yelled out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And everybody told him, "Be quiet," sternly telling him to shut his mouth and remain blind and out of Jesus' way. But blind Bartimaeus kept crying out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." As the church, we have been acting like blind men and blind women, sitting on the roadside, comfortable, not to see the evil of abortion. Abortion is blinding the sanctity of life. And when we call on Jesus to open our eyes, society tells us to keep quiet. Shut your mouth about life. Or we say, it's the government's responsibility to make the law, so we're off the hook. So we opt out of any responsibility. If we do not do our part in the speaking out for the unborn and trying to change hearts and minds to life, then we are no better than those who closed their eyes in Israel when people were sacrificing their own children to the pagan god Molech. Our false gods have different names. Convenience. It's not convenient to have a baby right now. Choice. I decide what happens with my body and anyone who is attached to my body. Personal preference. I want a boy and this one is a girl. We cannot remain silent with this Holocaust. Yes, Roe versus Wade was reversed to each state now deciding. It makes its own abortion laws. Judges no longer make the laws. We, the voters, make the laws. In the state of Michigan, everything goes, all the way up to the 9th month or the 40th week. We as Christians cannot just say we are pro-life, but our actions or inactions proclaiming we are pro-choice. There's one billboard that said, "I am personally pro-life, but politically pro-choice." Signed, Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate didn't want to kill Jesus, but let the people do what they wanted. He still bears the responsibility for the crucifixion of Jesus because he could have acted. So what can we do practically? Number one, we need to speak for the unborn. They are unable to speak for themselves. Number two, we need to speak the truth of the value of life. When people do not talk about the truth that there is life that is valuable inside the womb, society tends not to think about it. And since the unborn cannot speak, they are being killed. We also need to speak the gospel of Christ. God can change hearts and minds about this. If one pregnant mom sees someone praying in front of an abortion clinic and it changes her mind, a life is saved. We also need to speak with our votes. It only took 51% of the voters in 2022 for Michigan to guarantee abortion on demand all the way through the 40th week. It can take 51% to change that as well. We need to change hearts and minds. Protecting the unborn is not a political issue. It is a moral issue. We need to support pro-life candidates and work on defunding this abortion industry with our taxes. We also need to support crisis pregnancy centers that help pregnant moms who are in a crisis and want to keep their baby. We also have Jackson Right to Life that supports education on the sanctity of life and advocates for a pro-life agenda. In the light of what we have learned today about life beginning in the womb and abortion ending the life of an innocent baby, we need to know that forgiveness is available to all those involved in abortions. Abortion is not an unforgivable sin. Yes, it's a sin, but forgiveness is available through Jesus Christ. Confess your sin and receive forgiveness and healing. Silence is not an option for Christians regarding abortion. We cannot sit by the roadside blind and not do anything or say anything. Remember, a mother's womb is the most dangerous place for a human being in America. 1 out of 5 women will intentionally terminate their pregnancy by having an abortion. Let us be the voice of the unborn, that life is sacred in the womb. Let us also cry out to Jesus, for we allowed this to happen in our generation. Lord, have mercy on us sinners. Amen.